Yo, Pan, you ready?
Yeah,
Man, let's lock and load.
yeah,
Just blaze.
yeah.
No, turn me up.
Welcome to my garage. My name is Leon McIntosh, and today I want to talk to you about front tires for carpet and AstroTurf. This is going to be our front tire guide for Proline tires, or my front tire guide for Proline tires. Want to share with you, I fielded a bunch of questions. Want to share with you what I found that works personally in kind of the direction I like to go tuning-wise, so that way hopefully you can better spend more of your time on the track racing rather than trying to figure it out in the pits. So we're going to talk about this. I'm not going to talk about rear tires because those are pretty easy and we can talk about them on their own, but there's a lot of magic that can be found in the front, and I want to share with you some of the tips and tricks that I use and some other people use to find that speed or get the right starting setup. I'm going to talk about it starting with wheels, foams, and tires. Going to do it in that order because that's how it needs to go. As far as the wheels on truck, you can run any wheel. There's nothing special, no magic in the truck wheel. On four-wheel, you run the standard four-wheel width wheel. No magic there, right? Love the Proline wheel because it's actually a really stiff wheel. It's a little bit stiffer than most and takes away that flex characteristic or the flimsiness that some other brands may have. Where there's some magic to be had is in the two-wheel drive fronts. Now, on the two-wheel drive front, a standard front, I don't know if you can see this, but we'll get a close-up in a minute. There is two beads, an area for two beads, so there's basically four ridges. What you do, the hot setup or a good starting setup, you'll notice that in Europe and most carpet guys, they're running a narrower wheel, and some companies make a narrow wheel. If you want to take the standard Proline wheel to get that same narrow width, all you do is cut off the outside of it to that third ridge. And you can do this with a pair of body scissors. You can do it with a hobby knife. However, please disclaimer, not responsible if you hurt yourself. Would highly suggest the scissors. And then if you get a case of OCD like myself, you can go back with a Dremel and sand it down so it's nice and smooth. So what you ultimately end up with is a narrower wheel. And what's nice is because of the ribbing inside the Proline wheel and how it's a pretty deep wheel, it still maintains a significant amount of stiffness in that wheel, and it takes away that flex characteristic that may cause your car to do some weird stuff. So that's the hot setup right there, is narrowing out the wheel. Second, we'll talk about foams. In two-wheel drive, on the front of your two-wheel drive car, you don't run any foam. You just literally take the tire, put it on the wheel, glue it up, and then you're good to go. As far as four-wheel goes, a good tuning aid is you'll start with the white foam, an open cell foam, and you can then go to a closed cell foam. Now, why and when and how, right? If you are in a high traction situation, whether it be carpet or AstroTurf, sometimes you may notice that the front of your car is rolling over the tire and it's just ripping through the corner. It wants to rip the front around because it's got so much steering. A good tuning aid, if you have an extra set of tires, is try a closed cell foam. What that'll do is keep the tire from rolling over and digging into the track, because what eventually ends up happening is the tire rolls over so hard at such high speeds that it just gets to the wheel and the wheel starts digging. So running a good closed cell foam in the front will help alleviate that problem. And it essentially what you're doing is taking away steering. So if you're in a middle of the road situation where it's medium traction, when you go to a closed cell foam, you might get a push. And some people that might help. But if you're in a really high traction situation, might be good to try. And I think this is probably more for AstroTurf than carpet, but it might be good to try a closed cell foam. But your starting point will always be the white foam. Now, this applies to four-wheel drive, and this applies to truck. In truck, I personally prefer a closed cell foam front and then an open cell rear. And sometimes I've tried no foam, but a closed cell front gives that perfect balance in truck because the truck wants to tip over as it is. So I like to make it push a little bit with the closed cell and then tune in some steering through other settings. So that's our foam. Now we'll talk tire tread patterns, and then we'll get to the compounds. And I got a little bit of space here because there's a tire I don't have at the moment. You'll always run on two-wheel, I think you'll always run the narrow front two-wheel tire. So, and that's your basic one. And the part number for that is 8230. That 8230 will be your front carpet and AstroTurf tire. I think pretty much all the time, in my experience. What's missing here is the wide two-wheel front tire. I don't have that one, but I also think this one is more significant because that's the one you'll run on the front of your four-wheel drive car. The standard four-wheel drive front tires, which is the wedge here, which is part number 8261, and the pinpoint, which is 8229. These tires, to me, in my experience, are more suited for an outdoor, maybe an outdoor AstroTurf track or a super low traction turf or carpet track where you just need that, you need more pins, you need more contact patch. But my experience with these really has been, it's very aggressive. If you need an aggressive steering, you go at these. Because otherwise, I think you'll find yourself, it'll be overly aggressive and you'll need to be cutting pins away. If you find yourself in a position where you need to cut pins, as far as the wedge is concerned, you start with the outside and work your way in, and you'll cut off the, not the outer rib, but you'll cut off the first row of wedges and start from there and tune from there. With the pinpoint, if you find yourself in a position to have to cut off pins, you start at both sides. You can take the outer row and the inner row on both sides of the tire and work your way in from there. But like I said, I think what you need, your starting setup should be the wide two-wheel front tire on a standard four-wheel drive front wheel. So, and I think that's going to be the best balance of steering to traction. On truck, same thing. We only have one truck tire. You start with the wedge. If you get in a position, you've tried the closed cell front foam, and you've tried gluing the outside of the tire, because that is a popular way to take away steering, and really probably something you should do in truck anyway, is take some CA glue, run a bead on the tire, and then take a paper towel and just smear it around. Cover the sidewall in glue. If that's not enough, then you can start again at the second row, not the row on the sidewall, but the second row of ribs, start cutting ribs out. But you can also start a good first starting point is a closed cell front foam, and then tune from there, right? You can start with if you have a white foam, it might be too much, go closed cell, do that, then go glue on the sidewall. If that's not enough, then start taking out rows. Compound. Now, luckily, we only have 2 compounds in carpet tires. This has gotten out of control for most brands over the last couple years. But in my opinion, our Z3 and Z4 compound for Proline front tires is pretty consistent across both. The Z3 is a bit harder, the Z4 is softer. I think what you'll find is if you need a long wear tire, or you want tires that last 10 to 20 runs, you need to run a Z3. At the AstroTurf track I've run at Beachline RC in Cocoa Beach, I've got a set of Z3s, or I got several pairs of Z3 tires that have 20 plus runs on them and still 50% more of tread life. On the Z4, so the sacrifice there is you give up a little bit of traction. On the Z4, you get a touch more traction, but you're going to wear it out a little bit faster. I've had them go as fast as 3 runs all the way up to 10 runs. Really matters where your threshold is. So you've got some great options. Hopefully that's enough to get you started, get you out of the pits, get you on the track, and get you a good foundation. Tune from there. Pay attention to what everybody at your local track's doing. Or if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. My name is Leon McIntosh, and look forward to bringing you more great tips here in the future.